Over the last 24 hours, we've started to see some actually very good news, signs, and signals printing basically all over the place within the world of crypto. And so, what I wanted to do is I wanted to make a quick video kind of taking you through all of this, what good news we got, what good signals we're getting on the technicals, and what good signs we're getting from the fundamentals, because overall, this is pretty dang on bullish, and I think you'll be excited to hear it. Of course, last week, and the last week has been absolutely nuts with Trump's inauguration and Trump coin and inflation and all this other stuff. And so, with that in mind, it is obviously nice to kind of be able to sit back, have somewhat of a calm market, and look at some of the good things and the good news and good catalysts and signals that we've been getting over the last few days. So with that in mind, let's first and foremost talk about some of the good news that we've gotten recently, something that we did talk about in this morning's stream that I want to focus on today. Now, just yesterday, we did get a ton of news from the White House regarding crypto, but these four pieces of news were the biggest, and I am using Grok actually today, which is simplifying my process way easier rather than just reading through a whole bunch of tabs for you. So what we can see here is that there were a couple of key things that came out in executive orders over the last couple of days that were actually very good pieces of news for crypto. I would say the most important one is number one, so we're going to save that one for last, and let's look at some of the other ones first. Now, what we can see here is that we actually got revocation of previous policies. The order also revokes previous executive actions and guidance, such as the Executive Order 14067 and the Department of Treasury's framework for international engagement on digital assets, which were seen as potentially stifling crypto innovation. What this means is that Donald Trump went in and he revoked some of the previous policies put in place by Biden's administration with the help of the rat Gary Gensler, and starting opening, of course, more doors for the world of crypto and crypto innovation in the States. So this is actually pretty important. Another thing that he did was actually ban CBDCs. The executive order explicitly prohibits the creation of central bank digital currencies in the United States. I think this is a fantastic move. I'm not a fan of CBDCs. I don't think that the government being involved in creating their own cryptos is a good idea, hence why I think Trump coin is kind of stupid. But at the end of the day, overall, I just didn't think, especially a CBDC was a good idea, because all of the problems that we saw created within the United States economy, all of the things that we saw Bitcoin created as a result of, would then find their way into crypto, and that's obviously not a good thing. In addition to that, one very important thing that we got was protection of crypto companies. This order aimed to protect banking services for crypto companies, countering what some in the industry describe as regulatory pressures that have made banking relationships difficult. This includes measures to ensure that crypto businesses have access to banking services without interference. This is one of the number one ways in which the previous administration was slowing down the world of crypto. Even myself, as someone who has started two companies here within the world of crypto, one being an influencer relations agency and one being a school, as you guys know, I've struggled to getting, bank accounts and credit cards and things. It's difficult. It's so hard. And because of that, people just don't want to go through it. They'd rather just pick up and move somewhere else, or just, of course, establish themselves digitally just somewhere else, because at the end of the day, the United States is too dang difficult. And then at the same time, you're worried about getting a Wells notice and getting sued by the SEC and the rat. And it was just a lot. And this does start to pull that back, which is fantastic. But the best piece of news that we got was that the regulatory framework and working group has been released. An executive order was signed to establish a clear regulatory framework for digital assets. This includes the creation of a president's working group on digital asset markets aimed at shaping the United States policy on cryptocurrencies. This group is tasked with proposing new regulations and exploring concepts like a national digital asset stockpile. Now, this isn't a strategic reserve. A strategic reserve is oftentimes what you would consider whenever they are going to go out and buy cryptocurrencies and then, of course, store them strategically. This is more saying anything that they're able to seize lawfully from illicit or illegal organizations and things like that, they will just keep it and stockpile it rather than actually selling it. But what I'm more excited about is actually the base of all of this, and the fact that they are going to be going down the regulatory framework line item. Because you remember how I told you all in the last video that I did when I talked about this, that it was very important that Trump's administration came out and they took this in the right steps. They didn't go out there and they didn't just start, shilling all types of DeFi protocols and things like that and a bunch of meme coins like they did, which also didn't make sense. But rather than, once Trump was in office, we wanted to see them take the mature route, which is start from the bottom, get the framework done, make the regulations good, bring innovation back to crypto, protect people and let them know they'll be safe if they come here. And once they do come here, give them tax breaks, gives them some benefits to start even housing and expanding even more development. And once there is development, then start embracing it and promoting it and pushing it out into the economy, right? Like, that's how you do it. And this is the number one sign that they are taking that approach, that they are going to go in and start with the framework and start at the bottom and work their way up. And this is exactly what is needed in the United States if we are going to become some sort of crypto hub, which is absolutely fantastic. Without this, we don't get there. So of course, this is huge news. Now, speaking of, huge news, all of these bullish things that we have been seeing has actually led to not too much. here in the crypto market. And funny enough, although you may disagree, I actually think the fact that we're seeing the market stabilizing right now, even as all of this is releasing, I think that's a good thing, and I'm going to tell you about that here in a second. Now, before we continue with today's video, let me take a quick second to tell you about our channel sponsor, Bitfunded. Now, Bitfunded is a crypto prop trading firm, meaning what they do is they find very good traders, they give that trader capital, and once that trader generates gains on that capital, the trader gets to keep some, and Bitfunded gets to keep some. Now, it's not just a little bit of what the trader gets to keep, it can oftentimes be as high as 90% to 10% if that trader is good enough over a consistent period of time. Now, not just everyone can be a trader. Obviously, there's a verification process and you do have to complete some challenges in order to prove yourself, but once you do, the rewards can be fantastic. Now, the craziest part is, it's not even just the capital that you get. They also have an academy in which traders can go to get even better, to generate better gains, rewards, and of course, to get paid more. Now, once you are in the process of signing up, it is very simple. The registration takes less than 5 minutes, and once you do have an account, you have the ability to access these different challenges, whether it's base, starter, intermediate, advanced, and many more. Of course, you can see the differences in some of these, just depending on the audition fees and how many different cryptos you can trade and much more, but you of course get to pick the challenge that you want to partake in. So for example, I went in and I actually chose the base challenge. Now, once you do of course choose the base challenge, you can see here that you can head over to their dashboard and it'll tell you everything that you need to know. How much equity you have in this demo account, the challenge leverage, the trading period, how many days you have, your maximum daily loss, your maximum loss, and much more, making sure that you are on point and on target to be able to accomplish this challenge, to then be of course a verified trader with Bitfunded. And so with that in mind, as I mentioned before, there's a ton of opportunity here. There's hundreds of different cryptos that you can access. You can get up to $100,000 in trading funds. You get education, you get much more. So this is a fantastic opportunity. There's so much going on here. So I'm going to leave the link down below for all of you traders out there if this is something that's interesting to you. So as I mentioned before, I actually think the fact that we are seeing this crypto market just stabilizing right now, I think that's a good thing. Now, you may say, Tyler, well, why is that? Well, the primary reason why I believe that is because all of these things, although they are good pieces of news, they are things that we already somewhat knew were going to happen. All of these things from an intrinsic value perspective have been priced in already. The moment Trump won presidency, the majority of the market knew, okay, when he gets into office, he is going to start building out the framework to actually start making the US a more of a crypto hub. Everyone knew that. Institutions knew that. We knew that. Retail investors knew that. Everyone knew that, right? And so in a moment like this, whenever there is good pieces of news, good news is crazy, and there are good pieces of news, you don't want to see the market just going absolutely sporadic, right? Like I'm talking just flying absolutely straight upwards, because quite frankly, that means that it's not really going off of actual intrinsic value. It's growing more off of excitement and hype and FOMO, all of the things that are very short term and they're not going to last very long. What this means to me is that the market is in actually a very good place, because it means that the market did indeed price this in, and that's the reason why we are where we are right now. It means that we're not just at $105,000 Bitcoin just by accident. No, it's because as a result of all of the value that's been injected into the ecosystem as a result of Trump winning presidency and starting to do these things that are crypto related, we have now seen Bitcoin's true value work its way up towards these levels. Now, does this mean that, of course, its price can't fall? Obviously, its price can fall. Of course it can, and it will at some given point. But it means that we are exiting that period of euphoria. The price isn't up only because of hype and emotions. It's up because of actual intrinsic value growth. That's fantastic. That's a great sign. That's what you want to see. And so because of that, like I mentioned before, had this market just absolutely gone parabolic, I mean, I'm just talking absolutely scented, as a result of some of these pieces of news, I'd be like, yo, why is everyone freaking out? We knew this already. He's just doing what he promised. That's what this was, all of these promises being priced in. Okay, had he said we're not doing any of these things, the market would have fell, because it had already had these things priced in. And the fact that the market's not pumped as a result of what this, all of these pieces of news, is just a sign that that is true. Now, it's a sign that is priced in, and we're up here for a valid, justifiable reason, not just based off of pure hype and FOMO, like many people will say, right? Because everybody's been saying that the reason the market's up is just because of pure emotion. No, that's not the case. People see the value that will come as a result of all of these pieces of news, so they were getting in early, and now we're up to, of course, a good spot in terms of supply and demand. So we're seeing some very, very good signs from a technical perspective here that say that, okay, the price is stabilizing. Now, like I mentioned before, can it still get rejected here? Oh, absolutely. You guys know we are in what I call the MZ. This is a high manipulation zone. This is a level and an area in which the price will continue to go sideways until it does not. And so that means that while we're still in this thing, we very well might see Bitcoin's price at any given moment fall all the way back to the mid to low $90,000 range. It can happen, and anything that can happen typically will happen. So you need to be aware that it is a possibility. But my whole point is to say I'm not so worried that if it's about it falling down here, I'm not even worried if it goes a little bit lower than that. Because as Trump is now starting to implement the things that we hoped he would, it's showing that the market is pricing them incorrectly. We are removing some of the emotion. Investors are not so greedy right now, and they're also not so fearful. We're in a stable, sustainable portion of the market, which hypothetically could lead us upwards, right? History says that in moments like this, even if we do get one more pullback, when this market stabilizes and people stop doing crazy things in either direction, that's the moment where you can start to see it continue upwards. Now, speaking of people aren't doing as many crazy things right now, let's shift over to the fundamental side. Because if you actually look at the fundamental side of things outside of the charts, it paints that picture even clearer. For example, if we head over to something and we go down here, okay, what I want to do is I want to show you a couple key metrics. Let's actually first start off with the liquidation map. Do you see how there are, sure, some liquidations to the downside, right? So meaning if the market goes down, bulls will get liquidated, so the market probably will go down, right? That's kind of how that works. Do you see how, though, there's like, what? Let's look at this. If we go all the way down here, there's probably, $1 billion worth of accumulative long liquidation leverage. If it goes all the way down to, say, $99,000, yes, that's a lot. Obviously, that's a lot. But do y'all remember how much higher it was before? Do y'all remember how greedy everybody was getting whenever we were in this scenario just a week or 2 or 3 weeks ago? That whenever the market would barely push up just a little bit, everybody would open up and there would be $4 or $5 billion worth of liquidations to the downside. We're not seeing that right now. Matter of fact, if you actually look at your liquidation levels, a lot of liquidations have dried up around $95, $96, $97, $99,000. There's not that many liquidations here on the one day below $99,000, meaning that investors are not getting so greedy. Look at the 7-day. Now it shifts a little bit further down, right? It goes towards the 98,000. But do you remember how just a couple weeks ago we would see high leverage even on the 7-day that was all the way even back here? People had all these 10, 15, 25, 50x leverage trades open, and we saw huge amounts of liquidations that would happen if the market went down. Now we're not seeing that. Yeah, there's a couple $1 billion, meaning that it is still very possible that we go down there, but it's not nearly as much. And what does this mean? Well, what it means is that people are finally relaxing. In periods in which people are emotional is when you will see high manipulation. When people are emotional, that's when you're going to see the market going up and down and up and down and up and down over and over and over again. But when people finally calm down, they stop going on huge leverage long trades, huge leverage short trades. They're just allowing the market to play out. We've gotten past the catalyst and emotions aren't running high. That's usually when the market can run higher. Why? Because there's not many gains to be made by manipulation by the lizard people who control these markets, right? They can't really cause much of an impact if you don't care. You can't manipulate a person who doesn't feel any emotions because they don't care, right? And that's the portion of the market that I believe we're getting into. And so when I see things like this, like the liquidation map starting to dry up a little bit to the downside, it's a good sign. Now, like I mentioned before, there are still a lot of liquidations that'll happen if it goes down on the 1-day and on the 7-day and on the 30-day. So I'm not saying that it can't go down. I'm not saying they might not push it back down one more time to liquidate all those people. But what I am saying is that the further into this red box we're getting, the less people are starting to care, the less emotional they're getting, the more wise decisions they're making, which when that happens, that is usually the period in which we can finally start to see this market rally. Now, as this is happening though, another good sign from the technicals is the fact that short leverage is starting to build up. If we head over to the liquidation heat map model 2, what you can see here is that if we head out to the 6-month, that as time has progressed and as time has gone on, more and more liquidations up here have started to build. So do you see how, look, let me bring you back a little bit. Do you see how, in November, there weren't many liquidations to the top side, meaning no one was really shorting the market. They were just all expecting Bitcoin's price to go up as liquidations to the downside were building. But as time went on and we went into the December 3rd and the 8th and the 10th and the 14th, do you see how this volume of liquidations has been consistently getting thicker and thicker and thicker? What it means is that as Bitcoin's price has been stabilizing on and going sideways, the market is starting to now believe that the bull market may actually be over. They're not as emotional as they were before, especially the long traders, but many of these investors right here who are shorting the market expect that the bull run is over and that the bear market is about to start. And what I've come to notice is that once you get to a point where your prices stabilize, emotions aren't running so high, and people believe that the bull market is over, that is usually what can open the door towards the top side. And again, it doesn't mean that we may not, rip down one more time and then go, but it does feel to me as if these are all the confirmations that I needed to believe that this bull market still very well could have some juice in it, and it might actually be coming somewhat sooner than later. There is still the possibility of a Bitcoin strategic reserve. There is still the possibility of liquidity injection within the United States as a result of interest rate drops and quantitative easing. There are still all of these macroeconomic factors that could cause the crypto market to go upwards. And the technicals and the fundamentals show that we finally now have the room to do so now that many investors are relaxing in here, not doing anything too crazy, and short traders think that the bull market's over. This is a very, very good sign for the world of crypto, and it's made me very optimistic. And so in the short term, as I mentioned before, yes, things are still spooky. Things are still scary. We might at any given point just capitulate back towards $92,000 or $90,000. So I'm not going all in right now, but I have been doing a little bit of buying. I told you all just yesterday that I actually did a little bit of buying, or no, 2 days ago. I bought a little Ondo, HBAR, XLM, for example, right? I have been picking up a little bit of these cryptos. I bought these in actually two different movements, one right here and a little bit more later on that day, right? So I have been doing a little bit of purchasing and I have been doing a little bit of buying, but I'm not just absolutely dumping all of my cash into the market. Rather, I am just being optimistic about the money that I did invest whenever we were in some of these lower moments here. And again, this is a very good sign. And so with that in mind, I love what I'm seeing. I think it's fantastic. I think it's going to open up a ton of doors for us to eventually start working our way upwards. And even if the market does drop over the next couple of days, even if it does need to pull back one or two more times in order to come liquidate all of those people towards the downside, it does feel as if to me the door towards the upside is opening, and I think we're going to walk through it at some point. So obviously I am speculating, guys, and I will keep you updated. And do remember, this is only one person's opinion. This is just my opinion, my speculation at best, my guess. And so I don't want you to think that this is for sure what's going to happen. It's just how I think it's going to go. Make sure you are still going out there and making your own opinions and creating your own strategies and generating your own thesis and things like that, because I don't want you to just rely on me, because quite frankly, guys, I may be wrong and the bull market may be over. It just doesn't seem that way to me, and that's why I'm telling you I don't think so. And so now with that in mind, I will let you know I do have a few things for you if you are interested. First and foremost, if you do want to go to the link down below, you can check out BTCC. It is an exchange I've been doing a ton of trading on, especially over the last couple of months. And if you do go sign up with my link specifically, they'll give you a 10% bonus on all first-time deposits between $500 and $100,000. That means if you deposit $5,000, for example, they'll give you $500 back on the spot to start trading with, and whatever money you make from that $500 is yours to keep. It's absolutely insane of a deal. I don't think I'm going to have it that much longer because we have had it for about a month and a half or so, so feel free to go check that out if you are interested. And lastly, if you do want to see, of course, some of the different things that I'm buying and selling and much more, feel free to check out our school, which is linked down below. Our school has a very simple mission. We take crypto investors like yourselves. We give you courses, coaching, classes, live streams, workshops, signals, research, Q&As, and much more, because that's what helps you define your strategy, because strategies are where gains are generated. And I'm not talking about little gains. I'm talking about big gains. Our community has now generated over $2 million in recorded profit that we have seen from the different community members telling us how they're doing and showing us how they're doing. And we see tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit every single day from this community. There are currently over 1,232 members in the community, absolutely smashing it every day in the workshops, in these. Look, this is a public trading session happening right now where they're in there trading and learning. There's so much going on. So if you do want to check that out, the best part about it is it starts as little as $5 a month, and you'll get your money back guaranteed if you don't enjoy it. And so with that in mind, that's about it. Feel free to check those links out down below. And again, we're getting some great signs from the crypto market right now. So make sure that you're keeping an eye on it. Keep your eyes peeled, and I will see you all tomorrow in another video. Peace out, everybody.